Today on Hillbilly Voodoo, we're going to steal the axles out from underneath my neighbor's house, some pieces of steel, and some old random farm equipment, and we're going to attempt to build the ultimate metal bender, tube roller, metal fabrication device. Stick around, see what type of Hillbilly Voodoo and ninja skills we had to have to pull this off. Now for an upcoming project, I need to build some metal hoops, something like this. And I also need to roll some pipe into a large circle, about 1.5 inch, 1.25 inch diameter pipe. And these hoops have to have the metal on their side, not flat like this, so on its side. Now I could take large sheets of steel and cut the hoops out. I think this is 2 inches. I could do that, cut big 2-inch wide hoops, but it's a lot of waste. And I'd like to build a roller that I could just feed the stock into, and it will slowly arc it into the circle that I need. I don't know if this is feasible or not. I've seen similar things online for tens of thousands of dollars. I've also used the cheap tube benders from Harbor Freight, Princess Auto, places like that I don't think they're going to quite handle this job. They definitely won't bend the flat stock, but the round pipe that I'm using is a Schedule 80 super thick wall, so I'm pretty sure they're not going to handle that. So I think maybe I'm going to try my hand at building a roller that I can build different dies for that will bend the flat stock, bend round stock, possibly even square stock, whatever I need to bend. Now I have my slip roller here, works perfect for bending sheet metal, but to bend something that thick, the stretch over these rollers is way too much, so I don't even think it would handle it. And bending a chunk of flat like that on its side through a slip roller, and just not even feasible. So what are we going to need to build this project out of? Well, I'm thinking that maybe all the ones I've seen had bearings on either side of a shaft, and the shaft, it was just like the slip roller but shorter kind of thing. But I'm kind of short on bearings, and I use what I got to make what I want around here. It's kind of the Hillbilly Voodoo motto, is use what you got to make what you want. So what I'm thinking is I do have an abundance of old trailer axles around. Some that were removed from underneath a mobile home type axles. They're not really good for road use or anything like that, but they're around and I have them, so might as well use them. So what I'm thinking is taking the spindle and the hub and everything and using those as my bottom roller, and then having another roller on the top that adjusts, just like the cheapo tube benders. But I figure with the spindles, they support the weight of a mobile home, right? So they should be able to support enough pushing down on them to bend the metal. That's my whole theory. So let's go wander around and see what we can find for some axle stub ends and maybe some other materials that we can build the frame and stuff out of, and we'll see if this plan's going to work. If it works, it'll save me, well, a whole crap ton of money from buying an industrial bender type thing, and if it doesn't work, well, then we'll know that it doesn't work. Let's go figure out what we got outside there and start from there. No, I'm pretty sure that one of those trailer axle stub end things that I'm thinking about is right outside the door here, because I was digging around the other day and kind of tripped over the idea. Yeah, it's right there. Oh yeah, oh, it's not light. So that's what I'm talking about. Really wide spread bore rim or brake drum from underneath a mobile home. And I know for a fact that I have one more of those up in the shipping container, because I just tripped on it about 20 minutes ago. So we'll use those because they're not being used for anything. So that sounds like a good idea. How are we going to turn that into a roller? We have a spindle. We got a hub. Well, let's take this in the shop, take it apart, see if the bearings inside are good. Pretty sure, because it probably didn't have very many miles on it rolling down the road, and the grease looks pretty good still. So yeah, let's take it in, disassemble it, and see what we got to work with. I got this thing pulled apart here, and now that I'm looking at it, it's probably not a mobile home axle, because mobile home axles are just a straight shaft. This is probably out of a horse trailer that I dismantled quite a few years ago. Either way, doesn't really matter. It's what we got. So bearings look good. They don't seem too crunchy. Now, what are we going to do with this? I'm thinking that I'm going to chuck this up in the lathe, and I'm going to turn down all these little fins, knock them all off, and cut it somewhere around here. Get rid of all this brake drum part, and then we'll end up with a hub on our spindle that we can build little adapters, little benders, whatever, that we could slide over the hub. Does that make sense? Sound like a good idea? Yeah, it does sound like a good idea. I don't know about the sticking it in the lathe and turning it down, if that's the best idea, but it's kind of the one I got right now, so I guess I'll roll with it. See if we can get this thing chucked up in the lathe in a way that it's not going to fly out of there and kill us. We can't go from this side because this side is tapered, but I'm pretty sure that this side, I'll clean all that yuck off of there. That side's probably, that side's straight. So yeah, if we chuck that up in the lathe, start whacking away at it, then we'll get rid of this drum because we don't need the outer part of the drum. And all we'll be left with is the hub. Yeah, that's what we'll go with. Well, it kind of looks like we're not going to be able to grab it by here in the jaws because the drum itself won't fit over the chuck, and without the drum fitting over the chuck, it won't go in far enough to grab. So we're going to have to grab it from the inside of the drum, from here, right? So I got the jaws spread out there. That's probably way farther than I should be running them out, but hopefully it will grab that drum and we can lock her in there. Doesn't look super sketchy and it grabs, so hopefully it won't come flying out of here and end my existence. Oops, guess that's all the way through. Well, let's take this thing off of here and that's sharp. Well, maybe we should start paying attention to what we're doing here today before we end up hurting ourselves. So my idea here is to turn this down to a point, get rid of all this stuff, turn it down to a point that we can build dies that will slide over onto here, that our metal that we're trying to bend will ride in the die, whether it be like a rounded die for pipe or just like a V type thing for the flat stock, or a square bottom die. Something that we can slide over the end that's going to ride on this hub, and we'll have the spindle inside as our bearing. Does that sound like a good idea? I think it sounds like a good idea. Whether it's going to work or not, that's a whole totally different idea or different story. But I guess we can just keep picking away here and turn this down, see what we come up with, and go from there. It's kind of the way we roll here, is we just keep going until it works, or we keep going until it turns into something that we didn't plan. Yeah, that didn't make sense at all. But anyways, you know what I'm talking about. Just sit back and watch. You might learn something here, and I might learn something. Now, as I was machining this stuff down and sitting here in my own thoughts, I was thinking that this type of fabricating is probably becoming a dying art in our world today. Without a plan or a computer drawing or anything, most people can't figure anything like this out. Not that they don't have the brains to do it, but they've been trained in a way that you have to follow a paper drawing or a computer drawing or something like that. I think unfortunately in our world today, this skill is going to be lost with my generation. Now, that being said, I'm sure there's lots of people out there tinkering around and playing with stuff that are of a younger generation. But the building stuff out of junk or working on the fly and making decisions on stuff like this is probably being lost. I'm hoping by this YouTube channel that maybe I can pass on some of these skills to younger people. And yeah, the whole idea of making something that you want is not going to die with my generation. Yeah. Okay, that's enough of that babbling. Let's finish this up here. Well, now that we got our hub turned down to a more usable, more handleable size, I don't think that this is going to be the final configuration of this, but at least now we know what we got here and we can move it around without busting our guts. What are we going to do with this piece? Right now it's going to be kind of hard to mount on anything with all this crap on here. So I'm thinking that we should chop this off with the angle grinder, stick it in the lathe, and turn this side here down flat so that we can bolt this to whatever type of frame that we're going to be building to make this machine out of. Does that sound like a good idea? I I can't see us needing this part, so let's get rid of it. Yeah, that's what we'll do. Chop it off, the angle grinder, get rid of the meat of it, stick it in the lathe and turn it down flat. I got the majority of that stuff cut off there now. The bulk removed anyway, so let's go stick that thing in the lathe and flatten out the back side here. Hey, if you made it this far in the video, it's probably because you're not a complete loser that's just looking for people smashing things to entertain them. If so, you should probably subscribe to the HillBilly Voodoo channel so you can watch people actually build things instead of just destroying things. And while you're there, maybe give me a thumbs up and make some comments. Tell me what you want to see me build, or if you have ideas on things that you want to build yourself, and maybe I can give you some, well, maybe some pointers if you want to listen to a crazy old hillbilly. But anyways, let's go back and finish machining this part off so we can keep building what we're building. Okay, I went up to the container and found the other axle end, spindle, whatever the heck you want to call it here, and turned them down. They're both sort of the same. This one's got a little mess up here, but don't think that's going to matter. Now my original idea here was to have that like that, that like that, kind of mounted on a piece of plate or whatever, and then have another roller, another one of these spindle type things pushing down, and then the metal will arc like this, right? That's kind of what the bender that I saw online looked like anyways. We'd make the dies that would slide over here and a die that would slide over the other one. But I drug out this gear reduction box the other day because I was going to make a winch out of it. It's 400 to 1. So you spin this shaft 400 times, this shaft goes around once. And I was thinking that maybe this might be a good drive for this contraption that we're building here. I'm pretty sure that with this thickness of steel that we're going to be bending and the big huge hoops and all that stuff, doing it by hand, like cranking it by hand's probably really going to suck. So if I can drive it with a motor, then that might be a good thing. So that being said, driving it with a motor, maybe we will take one of these spindles, mount it on some type of plate coming off of our gear reducer here. I have no idea what this is out of. It's been kicking around here for over 20 years. I used to use it to bend square stock into spirals for decorative staircasing and railings and stuff, but I have no idea what it actually originally came out of. So blah, blah, blah. Who cares? Nobody cares. Anyways, I'm thinking that I'll mount one of these spindles, hubs, axle ends, whatever the hell we're going to call this, one here, build another piece coming off of here, and then we'll build our roller that's going to push down from here. So if we power this, this will be able to feed the metal, right? It'll power the metal in and out, and then the other roller will push down from the top. Is that making sense to everybody? It's kind of making sense in my head. I don't know whether in reality it's going to work or not, but yeah. Now, like I said, I was going to build a winch out of this, but this thing is friggin' heavy. Like, it's well over 200 pounds. And yeah, building a winch, a portable winch, yeah, it's probably not going to do it. So it might work good for this project because it's got a lot of mass and it's not going to jump around, and it's already mounted on a stick or board or whatever the hell you want to call this. So what are we going to need to mount that like that? Well, assuming that these holes are still threaded okay, we can use those. So we're going to need some type of plate or something that's not going to deflect when we're trying to roll our stuff here. Just trying to decide whether we should. Well, this roller is going to need to be powered, right? It's going to need to lock into this thing somehow and spin. I wonder if that would even come off of there. It's been on there forever, so. Yeah. Anyways, let's go find some steel that we can use, that we could mount that somewhere in there, because these two rollers got to be on the same plane, right? So the other roller squishes down and makes our hoop like that. Yeah. Okay, let's go look around, see what we can find for a piece of steel that we can maybe start making something that this will. How big a piece of steel are we going to need? Well, let's go with something that's about, see what we can find that's about a foot long. And hopefully, a foot long by hopefully about 5 inches. So then we can grab those 2 holes. Yeah. Let's go see what we got out in the piles of ground obtainium. Foot long. Well, let's write that down before we forget. Okay, let's go take a look at what we got out there. Now I'm almost 100% positive that we are not going to find a plate of steel out here that's big enough to do what I'm thinking. Unless we wanted to try to use a piece of grater blade, which drilling through grater blade, it don't happen. Well, it might happen, but it ain't happening here. So we got some other stuff here that's probably thick enough, but not long enough. Okay, so not much in this pile anymore for plate steel, but we do have, where did we put it? We do have that chunk of I-beam that we've been cutting stuff out of for the last couple months. Laying here, and that might be just wide enough. I can't remember if it's 6" or 5". 6". So yep, and that's over a foot long. So let's take that and see what we can do with that. Pretty sure that's the only option that we have right now. Unless we want to go, well, I was going to say we'd go chop a chunk out of a truck frame, but this is right here, and it looks easy to pack. Well, maybe not easy to pack, but it's close to the shop. So let's use this. Got that piece of steel chopped out of that piece of I-beam there, and I managed to bore a hole through it with a hole saw, but the hole saw wasn't quite big enough, so I had to round it out with the grinder. Not perfectly round, but it'll do what it's supposed to. I just need it to fit over like that, and then have the drive part to be able to poke through it. Just contemplating whether or not this is going to be thick enough. It looks like about a 1/2 inch thick, maybe not. Oh, let's see here. 3/8 thick. So I might have to do some reinforcing and stuff, because we're going to have a lot of pressure pushing down on this, right? On both these rollers. And then we'll have another piece of steel coming up here for the top roller coming down. So we're probably going to have to beef this up fairly substantially, because like I say, there's going to be a lot of forces on there. Well, this is obviously going to be a multi-part project, because every one of these little pieces is going to take quite a bit of time to make. So you guys might as well hit that subscribe button, you know, the one with my big furry face on it. And that's our channel, Hillbilly Voodoo. So yeah, give me a thumbs up, all that other good YouTube stuff. I think we'll leave this video here because we're kind of on a good spot. And until next time, guys, use what you got to make what you want, and I'll see you later.